Hi, everybody. Not a bad way to spend a Monday night, right? So nice to see this room so full. My name is Dave Karger. I'm a host on Turner Classic Movies, and I have the pleasure of introducing you all to four of the people who were all executive producers on this fabulous special. So I'm going to bring them out. First of all, a man who is the COO of Rocket Entertainment Group, Elton and David's company, a lovely guy, Luke Lloyd-Davies. There you go. Nice to see you. Next up, a fantastic, very innovative producer who, for his work on programs like The Late Late Show with James Corden, Carpool Karaoke, Adele One Night Only, and the last 3 Grammy telecasts, has won 12 Emmys. Please welcome Ben Winston. And I'm very happy to introduce 2 men who you just saw on this very screen. Please join me in welcoming David Furnish and Elton John. Elton, let me begin with you. That concert that this audience just watched was now 4 months ago. So much incredible stuff happened. Your family was there, all the fans with the outfits, the history of Dodger Stadium, the special guests like Brandy Carlisle and Dua Lipa and Kiki D. When you think back to that experience 4 months later, what sticks out in your mind?
I think mostly that my family was there and the boys were there. And you know, when you play Dodger Stadium, it has to be special. I mean, I've played it twice before. And for me, doing 3 nights there and being my last shows in the United States on tour, you know, you have to do it right. You have to get it right. So I was just in a bit of a bubble. I was just focused on what I was supposed to do, which was sing and play well. And the band did their job too. And I think at the end of it, there was an enormous sense of relief that we actually did it. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. It would have been horrible if I hadn't enjoyed it and I'd been uptight, but I wasn't. It's a magnificent place to play. Thank God the weather was wonderful. Joni Mitchell was at the last night, which was just an amazing thing for me. And so I think it was just a celebration of where David had, you know, 7 or 8 years ago, came up with a 5-year plan for me. And it all came together at Dodger Stadium and finished there. And it's been an incredible ride. Everything he did, he pulled off. You know, the film, the book, the streaming, the Rocket Hour programs, and the tour. So, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. After COVID, I didn't know when I started in New Orleans at the beginning of the year whether I was going to enjoy it or not, because I enjoyed being at home for 2 years. But I'd never been at home for 2 years at all. Actually saw my daffodils grow, which was a miracle. But I have to say, in all fairness to my band and everybody on the tour, the crew, everything, we had a blast, and every show was great. And I've never played and sung so well in my life for so long. And I really mean that sincerely, and it was just a pleasure, you know, to be at that point in my career.
David, Elton's alluding to this kind of 5-year master plan that includes all of these fabulous different projects. You know, the tour would be enough in and of itself. This adds so much to it, this special that you all put together. Why was this an important aspect of this tour for you?
Well, Elton said he wanted to go out in a big way. And Dodger Stadium for Elton has so much iconic history from 1975, when he was, at that point, the biggest star in the world. Los Angeles is also the home of the Troubadour, where Elton broke America, and his sort of ascent to stardom, you know, first started. The whole project of planning all the activities that led up to the tour and supported the tour was ultimately to do with our desire to spend more time with our children, because Elton was living a life that was, and our life was structured in a way that was requiring him to be touring all the time. And we weren't sort of seeing an opportunity for him to come off the road. And we looked at the school schedule, and I said, I know where we want to be. Where do you want to be? And Elton said, I don't want to miss my kids growing up. And so we had to put together a plan and a series of activities that I think my mission statement was elevate and celebrate. And I'm very proud, I think, of what we've been able to achieve. And the results that we got, the crescendo was Dodgers. And I just think the team, Paul Dugdale and Fulwell, just captured it magnificently and captured the energy and the spirit of that night so well.
Absolutely.
And also, I have to say, I was 75 at the beginning of last year, or 74, then I was 75. And honestly, I was singing better and playing better. And I really wanted that to be the thing. I didn't want to go out when I was going down like that. And I really feel that if I really sang so well and played so well, and with the band played so well, and that for me was so important to leave on a really high note, giving the best that you possibly can to the people that have supported you day in and day out for years and years and years. That was my brief to myself. And I think we pulled it off. I was really happy. I'm so critical of myself, but I just couldn't, I couldn't pick any faults. So,
Wow. So Ben, Fulwell 73 is your company. You were brought on to produce this along with Rocket. I mean, I think about all the amazing specials that you guys have done lately, particularly the Adele One Night Only special at Griffith Observatory. This is so different from that. What were you most excited to do with this project that maybe you hadn't done before?
Work with Elton. In an absolute heartbeat. I mean, there are certain calls you get, and the call when Disney call and say, would you be interested in producing Elton John at Dodger Stadium in what is the most historic, beautiful concert and a final show of the US tour? You have to pretend to be cool in that moment. And you sort of have to go, well, we should check the yeah, no, we're free. We'd love to do it. So it was a dream come true for us, truthfully. I think, we've been very lucky to make a variety of great shows, but I don't think anything is as big as this, in truth. It's historic for two huge reasons. Firstly, of course, it was the significance of Dodger Stadium. We all have that picture, that Terry O'Neill on our wall. It's an iconic image that is so defining of Elton, of music, of our youth, of everything. And so to be able to film that show again in 2022 and reflect that in such a way was amazing. But also it was historic for Disney+. This was the first time Disney have ever live streamed globally. And so if you think about the Walt Disney Company, and this is the first time they've done that, there is huge pressure, not just because you're making Sir Elton John's final show in the US, but also because you're working for Disney. So there was a lot going into it, a huge amount of technical work that needed to be done. But fundamentally, it was just one of the huge honors of all of our careers and lives, to be honest.
And I'll be asking you more specifically about some of the amazing technical achievements as we continue talking. Luke, I met these guys 19 years ago, we figured out, and very soon after that, I met you. And I think because there's people at probably varying stages of their career in this audience, I would love for this audience to hear your progression through your life with David and Elton, because when I met you, I think you were personal assistant to David.
To David.
Right. Yeah. So take us through what these last 19, 20 years have been and what your priorities were on this
Every single
project.
year?
No, okay. On this project.
No problem. Well, first of all, this feels like a bit of a dream. I only got off of a plane at 3 o'clock this afternoon, so I'm imagining my dog's going to start licking my face and I'll wake up. But I started in 2001 basically, and there's been various different sort of journeys that we've gone on together as a team. But I don't want to bore everybody with my story. I will be around later on if you want to ask me the questions. But I think going fast forward to where we are now, I think that the whole historic semblance of what we were doing on the night was just something I made really clear to all the teams in advance. So we had a conversation at the San Francisco Stadium, the Levi Stadium beforehand, where we got all the stakeholders together, and we said, look, this is a real historically significant show, as Ben's alluded to, and Elton and David have as well. And we said, look, this is really important for everyone. We want this to be a huge success. It's really important not just for Elton, it's really important for the crew, the band, everybody involved, and also for the fans. So, this has been, in many ways, I got quite emotional backstage. We had a documentary team there as well, but for me and for a lot of the team that were on the road with us, this was the sort of culmination of our careers. This is the point that we'd be sort of heading towards. And it was just a magical, magical day.
And not much time to put it all together, right?
Not much time at all. So I remember Mark at Disney called me. So we had a first chat at the end of August. And at the end of August, so 10 weeks until showtime was what we had.
All the producers in the audience are like, oh my God.
So, and then it started to get worse, because then Ben said to me, well, and then we obviously, we joined forces with Fullwell, and we're just, not to sing his praises too much, it was brilliant, because that was one of the worries. Would we gel with this team quickly enough? Wow. 10 weeks isn't that long.
And we had a documentary crew filming at the same time, and our own crew. So on the night, it was actually 3 crews having to kind of mesh well together and not get in each other's way.
And that documentary is for
Disney Plus.
Great. Full circle moment here.
Shameless plug.
Yeah. Elton, when you think back to that day in November, did it feel like a different show? Did it feel different in the hours leading up to it? Or is that not how your mind works? Is it just a show that happened to be globally live streamed?
There's certain things in your career that during a tour you have certain shows that you have to pull off, they're important, and you gear yourself up for it mentally. I mean, throughout my career, I've had certain things I've had to do where I've had to call on my professionalism, and I pride myself on professionalism. And 3 days at Dodger Stadium, let's go back to the 70s when I first played. I wasn't very well at all. I was mentally fatigued. I was very unhappy, but it was sensational, because for me, the concert was everything, and then everything else was different. But I've always concentrated on what I've had to do on stage. But these 3 shows, I'm at a different stage of my life. I have never been so happy. I'm 76 years old next week. And yeah. And I tell David and I tell my sons, it's taken me all this time, but I've never been as happy. And that's because my priorities have changed, my lifestyle has changed. It's all about my children and David and me. My work takes care of itself if I take care of it. And I should be able to do that after all these years. But Dodger Stadium is a magnificent place to play. It's the outside Madison Square Garden, basically. Madison Square Garden is the best inside place to play. Dodger Stadium is the best outside place to play.
David, for those of us who were at the show, and I feel like I've seen you now, not as many times as some of the people that we saw with those signs. I think for me it's like 50 or 60 times I've seen you. But you were Elton was totally on 11 that day. Like, we all could tell, even people who had seen him dozens of times. What was it like for you? Obviously, you were getting the job done, but you were also there. What was it like for you to see him in that moment really killing it?
I mean, it was just incredibly emotional. I mean, for so many reasons. I mean, the combination of all those years of hard work and the planning and development that we put into the production to create a show that really celebrated Elton's career and the history of his career and all the different ways that he's touched popular culture, the films that we created and sometimes reused to accompany some of the songs, all reflect different aspects of Elton as an artist and as a performer. And to see it on, as Elton said, the stage of the greatest venue in the world, Dodger Stadium, and to see it go off so brilliantly. I mean, we all felt the atmosphere. Elton and his band are unbelievably tight. I want to point out that everything they do is 100% live. There's no click tracks. There's no pre-records.
Except for Cold Heart.
Except for Cold Heart, because Elton sings over the pre-recorded track. But they are 100% live. And what I love about the way we've captured the concert is you can see the connection between Elton and his band. They are so tight. And the reviews that came along from Variety afterwards complimented and really praised Elton's band, which I think you were more happy about.
This is one of the great bands of the 20th and 21st century, because they are.
And they have this magical, spiritual, joyful link whenever they play. They just know from a nod, from a gesture, whether to play an extra verse, an extra chorus, to go off and improvise. But you felt all of that magic coming together on that night. And then, of course, to have our friends were there. Taron Egerton was there, who we've become very close with since we did Rocket Man. Donatella was there. Duo was there. All the great collaborations. It was just this crescendo. It was wonderful.
Paul McCartney was there.
Yes.
As well.
We heard rumors that Paul McCartney and was there, we were like, who's seen him? Who's seen him? Well, it's a great moment when you see Taron Egerton. There's a shot of him where he's like, that's Elton John, pointing to the stage, which is great. It's like, you played him, man. Ben, the camera, I mean, you'll tell me how many cameras there were, but such inventive placements, roaming in the audience, above Elton when he's playing, the aerial shots, the real intimate shots of him close up. Who devised that whole plan? How many cameras were there? And how difficult was it to put it all together, that part of it?
Well, we've got an amazing team. My co-producers on it, Gabe Turner and Emma Conway and Sally Wood, and our director, Paul Dugdale's exceptional. We had 28 cameras on it that day. The way we looked at the show, essentially, is there was three characters in it. There is, of course, Elton. There is the stadium itself. And then there's also the fans. Because what I noticed from going to shows in advance of filming this show was the incredible love and warmth and costumes and signs and outpouring of love that these people have for Elton. And actually, they are a key character in the show. So when we were looking at how we shot this, it was really important that you get the scope. You see Dodger Stadium from both helicopters and drones. And as I was standing at the back reminding myself of it, there's those beautiful drone shots that go around the roofs of the stadiums. And then you've also got the helicopters. At the same time, we're in the pit so we can really see people dancing and enjoying it, which I just think is such a great atmosphere, where you've got to be careful because you're cutting live, don't forget, for 3 hours. So you've got to make sure that you're cutting at the right moment and someone's not picking their nose, but they're dancing their head off. And then also, you've got to be, we're on stage with Elton and didn't want to put him off because, of course, he's got a show to do. But what I think we're most proud of about that is that it is the most vast venue of all time, and therefore it feels utterly epic. But yet at the same time, you're on stage with Elton John really feeling it. And I think that's what we really try to do, to give the viewer a real experience of being on stage, listening to one of the greatest icons of all time, but also reflecting the vast thousands of people in this metropolis city of Los